Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be demonstrating a hypothetical game of the Kaiser's Pirates between two live human players, just to walk you through the game system and show you how it works. So what I've done is I have shuffled and dealt the action cards. Now the smaller the number of players, the smaller the number of cards you have. So in this case, the deck has been shuffled and 40 cards have been removed from the play deck. And each player has been dealt their starting hand of 6 action cards. Similarly, although no cards have been removed from these decks, the merchant and warship decks have been shuffled, and our two players, let's just call them A and B for now until I think of something more imaginative, have been dealt 3 warships or raiders each and 3 merchant ships. So on the side closest to us we've got 2 raiders, the Berlin and the Grief, and the cruiser Karlsruhe. And for the merchant vessel we've got the British ships Manchester Commerce and Dramatist, and the Norwegian sailing ship Stout. The other player starts off with what looks like a very powerful force, 3 cruisers, the Leipzig, the Königsberg and the Nürnberg, but of course he has no disguised ships. It's completely obvious what those are, so they will be coming under attack a lot over the coming turns. He of course has 3 British steamships, the Otaki, the Clan McTavish and the Ramsey. So, in terms of figuring out who goes first, there are 2 ways you can do this in the rules. You can either have a roll-off, straight roll for initiative, or the player with the higher victory point total of ships can go first if you prefer it that way. Now, I think, just to save my wrist the extra dice roll, we will go with the victory point system. So because he has 3 cruisers over there, the other chap goes first. The first thing that happens over the course of your turn is you take a look at your hand and you decide what you want to use. Remember, there is no limit to the number of cards you can play, but just bear in mind that you only draw 1 replacement card at the end of your turn. So our hypothetical player will have a look at his deck. He really would like to do me a fair bit of damage to begin with. He's got 1 response card, Trap, which it's tempting to hang on to as a response. He also has the support card, Surprise Attack, which is quite a powerful one. As he's visible to me, he's thinking that perhaps not all of these intercept cards are very powerful, looking at their British side. So he thinks he might just give orders to all of his ships. Or does he want to do that? Does he want to go for a blowout? No. He's going to be more cautious. He's going to give an order to the Königsberg. And he's going to play Interrogate to see if he can get his hands on one of my raiders. And he'll leave it at that. He's thinking ahead to future turns. Now, when you commit your action cards, you place them next to the ship you're giving an order to, or if they're operating independently, you put them off to one side, oriented so that it's clear which side of the card you're going to be using, whether it's the vertical intercept side or the horizontal action side. So in this case, he's playing that card as an action and that card as an intercept. And the player who plays the cards has the choice of which order they're activated in. So the Königsberg is going to reveal her play first. It's a straightforward intercept order. And he's going to attack the Manchester Commerce, which is one of my 2 high-value merchant ships. So that card will go into the discard pile. looking at my hand, going to see whether I have anything that can help the poor Manchester Commerce escape. I do have this card, Shallow Run, and it's a blue reaction card. A warship, raider, prize, or merchantman automatically escapes an intercept before it is resolved. However, to do this, you have to determine if the ship escapes undamaged. Now, luckily, I was not subjected to a surprise attack. I'm not in an island refuge, and it's not a night action. So the Manchester Commerce is going to run for it. Now, looking at the challenge, I've got to roll as the Manchester Commerce a red and a blue, and the German player will roll a blue in response. So let's see what happens. All I have to do is beat him, and my ship escapes undamaged. So the Manchester Commerce makes her roll. A 2 and a 3, that's not so healthy. Oh, that is a 10. Okay, so the Germans win the roll. Unfortunately for me, I did not escape undamaged. So Shallow Run, effectively, we made a run for it over the reef. So the Manchester Commerce gets away temporarily from the Königsberg, but she now has a damage cube placed on her. Now, in the basic game rules, the first and any subsequent damage cubes you accumulate impose a -2 to all your dice rolls. I prefer playing with the optional roll where each cube adds a cumulative -2. So the more damaged your ship gets, the more likely it's going to fall prey to someone in the end. So perhaps a disappointing start for the Königsberg. I think she really wanted to either sink or take me a prize, but the Manchester Commerce managed to get away. However, there's now this other card coming up, and he's playing it as an interrogate. Oh, drat. He's naturally going to go for my more expensive raider, which is the liner Berlin. And she is about to be interrogated by a patrolling British warship. So first of all, if I want to avoid fighting, I'm going to have to pass the interrogation. Let's just hope my camera can focus on this. Come on. Oh, there we go. So that's the challenge, interrogations being made, and my response. So rolling for the challenge first. The highest British roll is a 3 on the green dice. I may talk my way out of this yet. I roll the blue dice. I get a 2. Oh no. The British captain does not believe my story that I'm an innocent merchant ship, and he is manoeuvring to attack. Worse than that, my raider Berlin is now recognized. So even if she gets away with this fight, she's going to be hunted pretty much wherever she goes unless I can reflag her or do something clever like that. So the British make their attack, a blue and a green. Oh dear, they got a 9 on the blue. My defensive dice are blue and white. If I want to escape any form of damage, I've got to get at least a 9. I do get a 9. So that means that I escape, because in order to do damage, they have to exceed my total. Equaling it is not good enough. So although she's been recognized and warnings are being broadcast, the Berlin has escaped. No doubt gritting his teeth furiously at this unacceptable outcome. The other player draws a card to end his turn. And play now passes to me. So what do I want to do? I have boarding party, which is a useful card. Pull the plug may be useful, but it's a bit extreme. I've got shipping lanes. Interesting. Don't have any damaged ships, but using that as an intercept order turns it into a knight action, which has its pros and cons. Maybe it's worth going for. I too might hang on to my cards. It's very tempting to play shipping lanes, but I don't know. That third merchant ship is not all that high value, so maybe I won't do it just yet. So, the Karlsruhe is the most powerful of my ships. So in order to use these cards together, I do want to use the boarding party in order to seize one of those ships, because that can be quite useful having a prize. I can resupply my coal-hungry ships for one. Right. So I'll play that card on its intercept side, and that next to it on its boarding party side. And of course, that would be the end of my card commitment phase, and then I would reveal them. So it's going to be a knight attack, which means I get a -1 to my attack roll. But if I succeed, then I capture the ship rather than sinking it. So here's hoping that the Karlsruhe has brought enough power to the party to capture the Otaki. Ah, I'm not going to get everything my own way. He's got... No, he can't play fast ship at night. But it seems that the Karlsruhe has walked into a trap. What I thought was the Otaki is in fact a small British warship. Oh dear. So the intercept and my boarding party goes, well, quite literally by the board. We have to clear for action and fight this enemy instead. However, luckily for me, because this was an attempted knight intercept, he does get a -1 to his dice roll. And whoever that patrol vessel is, it's very weak indeed. So it rolls a green die, and at -1 it gets a 5. I get to roll, in response, a red, a blue, and a green. We might yet get through this. Yes, my highest roll is a 6, so despite the unpleasant surprise that that was a warship and not a merchant ship that we'd stumbled across, the Karlsruhe manages to make her escape. Oh, it's dangerous out here. You'd almost think Britannia ruled the waves. So it's the end of my turn. I draw a card, add it to my hand, and play now goes back to the other player. Looking at his sadly reduced hand, he not unnaturally decides he's going to be a little cautious. And this is an easy decision, a single card you can play. There is an option of removing the team game cards from the game if you're not playing with the team game rules, but I personally like to keep them in because you can always use the intercept. And that's a fairly weak intercept as these things go. So our hypothetical player is going to give the order to the Königsberg again to intercept the damaged Manchester commerce and hunt her down properly. This time I have no blue bordered cards that can come to the Manchester commerce's aid, and she gets a -2 to her dice roll because of the damage. So Karlsruhe is moving in for the kill. Königsberg is moving in for the kill. Karlsruhe is mine. So Königsberg attacks with a blue, a red, and a green. Oh dear. Small cruiser she may be, but I'm afraid the poor old Manchester commerce wasn't really designed with fighting cruisers in mind. Oh dear, and his roll is his highest roll is a 9 on the green dice. I don't think there's much we can do about this. Oh dear, with my -2, the Manchester Commerce's final roll is a 0. She is blown out of the water. Of course, these being the gentlemanly days of prize rules, I'm sure her crew was allowed to evacuate first before the Königsberg put her under. But she now goes into the other player's victory point pile to be counted up later. A much more satisfying turn for him than the previous one. He's happy with that, and he draws his card. Now it's the end of the turn, and at the end of each turn, if any player, whether it's a 2-player, 3-player, or 4-player game, is short of a merchant ship card, they draw a replacement at this point. So I have not a bad looking vessel, the Demeterton. All right. Unfortunately, she's also rather hefty on points, so that may make her an attractive target. Oh dear. Never mind, it's my turn. I'm going to hang on to pull the plug because it's useful. And I like Breakout as well, so I'm tempted to keep that for the action because it can reinforce me. The only problem is, much as I like Deception as well, I do want to do some intercepting. Or do I? No, I'll use it for the disadvantageous intercept, but I'm going to be rather mean. I'm going to play shipping lanes as a support. So a warship intercepts all 3 merchantmen with a single intercept card. Let's do it. Karlsruhe is going to have a busy morning. Now my opponent has a couple of cards which may actually help. Fast ship only applies against raiders, because of course cruisers were fast enough to overtake any fast merchant ship, or at least most fast merchant ships. However, we do have non-combatant, which slightly reduces the chances of the thing falling, but if he rolls well, if I roll well, I should say, it gives me a good chance of taking it as a prize. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, that one. But he's going to play non-combatant on the Otaki in the hopes of saving her. All right then. In that case, Karlsruhe will oblige him by going after the Otaki first. So come on, camera. You can do it. So blue, green, and white for my guns. And I suffer a -2 to my attack due to the uncertainty of her being a non-combatant. And I have to sink her for any decisive advantage to myself. Let's see what happens. All right, with the negative modifier, my best roll is a 5. Now, the Otaki is a reasonably well-built ship because her defensive dice is blue. This could be tough. Oh, she's rolled a 7. She got away with it. So I'll leave that card there as a reminder because something else is going to happen at the end of this round. But undaunted, the Karlsruhe is going to go after the Clan McTavish next. And this time she's not protected by any snazzy action cards. So I make my roll. Highest I get is a 7 on the blue dice. The Clan McTavish is a much weaker target than the Otaki. She's only got a green dice. And she rolls a 7. Unbelievable. She gets away too. Right, a rather frustrated Karlsruhe. is going to chase after the Ramsey, which, I mean, come on, look at this thing. She's a tiny, pathetic little whatnot. If we don't get this one, there'll be no living it down. Oh dear, my highest roll is a 3 on the white dice. And their roll is a 3 on the red dice. Oh no. Oh, groans all round from the Karlsruhe's crew. What makes it even more embarrassing is that, despite the fact that I was applying a -1 penalty as well, I would have thought she would have at least got one of them, but no, the Karlsruhe's attempt at a night sweep through a busy shipping lane has just ended in humiliating failure. But now, even more embarrassingly for me, the other player gets to see if each of his merchant ships safely make it home. And this is called making a safe passage roll. If a merchant ship you possess is attacked unsuccessfully, it then has a chance to run for port. So the Otaki rolls the white dice and I roll the blue to try and stop her. But she gets a +2 bonus because of the non-combatant card, so let's see whether she makes it. Nope, she's still at sea. She hasn't made it back to port. That's a relief. If she had made it home, she would have gone into my opponent's victory point pile, but would have been worth double points. Not good news for me at all. The Clan McTavish is also going to make a run for port. And she succeeds. So she gets into port. So that's just my incompetently executed attack has just netted my opponent 14 victory points. Confound it. And here comes the Ramsey. She going to add insult to injury by getting home as well? Probably. Let's see what happens. No, she's still at sea. Okay, that could have gone a bit worse. No, actually, could it have gone much worse? Not really, I don't think. Oh dear. I draw my card and retire to lick my wounds, maybe. And of course, the toothy gap that used to be occupied by the Clan McTavish is filled by, the French sailing merchant ship Charles Junot. Now, what do you think, everyone? Do I have a chance of running this one down, perhaps? She doesn't even have an engine. Pride of the Kaiser's navy, I am. Never mind. Negative thinking didn't get anyone anywhere. Back to my opponent, who is no doubt chortling into his tea. Now, he's got a sadly reduced hand, but as he's ahead in points, he's actually tempted to use it. In fact, he's tempted to go for a bit of a blowout. So, despite the lovely awesomeness that is second chance, he's going to use that to order an attack. And he's going to back it up with surprise attack. That order, of course, will go to the Königsberg. And although that is a useful card to have, he's tempted to use it for an attack as well. So he is going to play it on the Nuremberg. Now, what have I got? All I've got is a scuttling card that doesn't really allow you to scuttle merchant ships. Lets you scuttle anything except merchant ships, but that's not really much good to me. Anyway, let's resolve some of these attacks. I'm assuming my opponent would stylishly start with the surprise attack, which is thrown in by Königsberg, and not unnaturally he'll go for the Demeterton, which is an expensive, lovely, lovely ship. So the Königsberg comes steaming in, rolling that formidable array of dice. Well, if the camera will focus on that formidable array of dice. Red, blue, and a green. And he gets a +2 bonus. His highest roll is 6. with the modifier. So what chance does the Demeterton have? She is a green dice. This may not end so well. She rolls a 4, so it's not double, so she's not sunk, but she is damaged. So, okay, despite the element of surprise, Königsberg hasn't quite finished her off. Nürnberg, meanwhile, is just going to execute a normal intercept. And unsurprisingly, she's going to go after the dramatist. Now, there's very little to choose between the Nürnberg and the Königsberg. They're not strictly sisters, but for game purposes, they might as well be. So she brings her formidable battery to bear on the poor dramatist. This is not going to be fun. Oh, and she rolls a 3 as her highest. We may yet get away. The dramatist, like the Demeterton, rolls a green dice. So let's see what happens. A 6. She does a runner, gets away from Nürnberg. Nicely done. This means I get a chance to return to port once my erstwhile opponent has drawn his replacement card. So a white versus a green. Maybe we can do this. No, the dramatist is still at sea. Okay, back to my turn. Now I'm going to be a little bit cautious here because I really don't have that many cards, and hypothetically I'd be looking to this being a fairly long game. So although my opponent has very handily reduced himself to a single card, I would probably be cautious, and I might hold on to that juicy shipping lanes card for a future turn, especially after the discouraging run that Kaiser has made already. But what I might do, just the one card this turn, is go for a breakout to see if I can augment my force. So I've got to roll a blue and a green. My opponent rolls a blue. And if I beat his score, I may get more warships or raiders, which might be worth having. Let's try this out and see. Oh, I got an 8 on the green dice. That's promising. And he got a 1 on the blue. Fantastic. I get to draw 2 cards from the Warships and Raiders deck and add them to my force. That's nice to have the options. And my first one is, drumroll please, the cruiser Dresden. Okay, I'll take her. I will take her. And my next one, good lord, I have the cruiser Emden. Well, hello, Captain von Müller. Excellent. So now I have a force of 3 cruisers and 2 raiders. That's very respectable. Of course, the one thing, much as I am definitely in the game, because it's going to be very difficult for him to sink my entire force, I have to remain painfully aware that having 5 ships with which to cause trouble at sea is all well and dandy, but I only have 2 cards, back up to 3 now that I have drawn my third one, but it's still not looking an awful lot. So I'm going to play another round for the other player, and then I'll call this one here because I think it's given you a pretty good sense of the ebb and flow of this game. So he takes one look at his card and decides that he will hang on to it because Good Hunting is actually a pretty good card, and it would be quite wasteful, given that he's already leading me in points, to just chuck that away as an intercept. So he draws a card. Ooh, a submarine. That could be interesting on a future turn. I tell you what, I'll squeeze in one more turn for me. Pull the plug has really done nothing for me. So I'm still going to hold on to shipping lanes for a future turn, but I'm going to play the pull the plug card as an intercept order. And I might give the newly arrived Dresden a bit of exercise and have her target the Otaki, which is a high value ship. He has no response card, so it's a straightforward interception. Of course, I say that after what's happened before with Karlsruhe. We'll have to see. Red, blue, and green dice, a very respectable attack. Oh, and I got a 10 on the blue dice. Nice. The poor old Otaki only gets a blue and has rolled a 7. Ah, drat, that was rather high. So I don't sink the ship, but I have had the satisfaction of damaging it, and hopefully I'll run it to ground next turn. In the meantime, I draw a card. Ooh, and that ends my turn with me in possession of a submarine as well. Interesting. Now, I am going to end it there because I think that's a good point to stop. However, just to say a quick word about submarines, they operate very much like any other action card. So you have your attack and defense ratings, and you can choose whether you wish to attack a merchant ship with torpedoes, or you can defend yourself with your gun if you have a Q ship played on you. These cards are somewhat unique because they are action cards, but they effectively function as ships. And if my opponent sinks this, they get 11 victory points for destroying U-27. So that's how that works. So what would happen theoretically is that the game would continue until the deck was exhausted, which can sometimes take quite a while, especially in a game like this where most of the time you are only drawing the one card. At the end of the round, the players would be assigned round points depending on how well they had done in terms of victory points. Let's say the game ended rather dully with no further action. I would have 0 round points for not having sunk no merchant ships or any warships or raiders. My opponent would have had a total of 21, 14 for the Clan McTavish getting home safely, and 7 for having sunk the Manchester Commerce. So I would have been awarded 0 round points. He would rather strangely have been awarded 2. Because in theory, the player with the lowest victory points gets 1 round point, and then the next highest gets 2 and 3, and so on and so forth. However, if you end the game with 0 victory points, then you get 0 round points. And you play a total of 3 rounds. Ships that have been used, you can retain one of them if you wish, but there's a hand penalty the next game. The rest get placed face up at the bottom of their decks to show that they've already been used. And you start with entirely new squadrons for round 2. In the similar vein, the action card deck is reshuffled with its parent deck, and another 40 cards, say, would be dealt out for a 2-player game, or 60 for a 3-player, or 80 for a 4-player. And that, in a nutshell, is how the human versus human game of the Kaiser's Pirates works. There is an optional rule, as I'd mentioned earlier, for a team game where in a 4-player game, 2 of you can team up against the other 2 who are also a team. The game effectively remains unchanged, but there's limited scope for communication between the team players, and you can trade cards or play cards to benefit each other. You're not allowed to discuss them, of course. You can use vague terms like, "Oh, I really wish I had a response card," just to keep your friend guessing and to highlight the fact that it is the second decade of the 20th century, and wireless communication really is not what it should be, or what everyone hopes it would be. But I hope you've all enjoyed that, and I hope it's given you a good idea about how this game works. Of course, naturally, if you do have any questions, would like to see anything a bit different or any points revisited, please let me know in the comments. Um, my next video will be quite similar to this one, except I will be demonstrating the solitaire system, the so-called phantom players deck versus a live human victim, I mean player, i.e. me, and just so that you can compare and contrast the two and really get a look at how much cleverness and thought has gone into this system. But I will leave it there. As always, I'm really grateful for your company. Thank you so much for joining me. Those of you who frequently do, it's always good to see you, virtually at any rate. And for those of you who might be tuning in for the first time, a very warm welcome to you. I hope I'll see you again. And thank you very much.